Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is sponsored by Drop and the Cost GMR headset. You can get it at the link in the description.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Gaming for Wednesday.
It's Wednesday! God damn it, it's Wednesday. It's hump day, it's middle of the week, but also, it's September 11th.
Let's give a soft one.
Just one for the troops.
I feel sorry for anyone tuning in for the first time ever to the show. Anyway, here we go again with another GameStop is dying story.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah, hooray! Everyone seems to really revel in this. So yeah, the giant retailing dinosaur moved one step closer to the extinction meteor yesterday after it reported yet another bad quarter, actually a very bad year.
Sales are down, GameStop has lost hundreds of millions of dollars, and they say they're gonna close up to 200 low-performing stores.
Oh no! So I won't be able to be in one GameStop and then wave at the person in the other GameStop across the street. When I worked in my GameStop, there were 3 GameStops within a half mile that I would call if somebody's looking for something. The one in the mall, the one down the street, and then the one across the street.
None of them had Battletoads.
No, they did not. Still funny. We know it's been looking bad for a while. We've been riding that train to YouTube views for a while, so you gotta wonder how much more bad news GameStop can take.
Also, new consoles are still more than a year away, and there are a bunch of new digital competitors on the horizon that could signal an end to the retailing giant, or what once used to be a retailing giant.
There's a weird afterlife for this kind of thing somewhere. Toys R Us is in retail heaven, getting ready, like propping up a cloud, fluffing it up for GameStop.
Anyway, let's dig into some good old-fashioned numbers. Take it away, Brian.
So yeah, GameStop reported sales in the second quarter of $1.29 billion. Sounds like a lot, but that was less than analysts had predicted. They wanted a few more billions. So overall, worst number, its total sales were down more than 14%. That is really bad.
Sales dropped in almost every category. That means new game hardware, new game software, used games, accessories, and digital. So that's most of them.
Why else would you go to GameStop? Oh, must be the wall of Funko Pops. To that regard, yeah, the only category that rose sales-wise was collectibles. We got Rick and Morty. You want a Pickle Rick skate deck? We got that now. Anyway.
Wubba, wubba, wub,
Gamer culture. So, good news, not good enough. Obviously, GameStop also reported a net loss for the quarter of more than $413 million. Ooh, but most of that was from an accounting adjustment called asset impairment. Boy, you'd like to think a company's just money in, money out, but it really doesn't
No,
work
it's
that
never
way.
that way.
Yeah.
You gotta fudge the numbers somehow. So asset impairment, that's actually when a company adjusts its books to reflect the value of something that is worth less than they previously thought.
Yeah, so I buy a sack of potatoes for $20. That sack of potatoes sits in my garage for 5 years. It's not worth $20 anymore.
It's worth more.
So the really bad number for GameStop is something called comparable store sales, which is the percent change in sales at a company's stores from one year to the next.
Interesting. So GameStop's comparable store sales were down more than 11% compared to last year.
And that's the lifeblood of the corporation, really.
Yeah.
People coming into stores and buying stuff. So, oh, and it gets worse. GameStop said that these sales are going to continue falling even worse than they previously said.
God.
So they thought they'd figured out how bad it was, but it wasn't. No, it's even worse.
Yeah, buy a girl a drink first. Jesus. As a result of all of this, GameStop says it's going to close between 180 to 200 stores globally that are not performing well. So watch out, Canada. They're coming for you.
Gaming enthusiasts sitting behind the desk trying to tell people that
You're wrong?
yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, apparently one of those 3 or 4 stores in the half-mile block is gonna close, and that's gonna make it really rough to find that copy of Battletoads.
But I mean, that makes sense. Maybe it's oversaturation, right?
Based on their acquisition spree in like the early 2000s? Yeah. 200 stores seems like a lot, that's a big number, but it's actually kind of not, right, Brian?
Yeah, it's just about 3.5% of the more than 5,700 GameStops worldwide.
Jeez.
About 4,000 of those are in the US and Canada. But it is still a sign that GameStop can't support all the locations that it's opened over the years. And yeah, the fact that you have 4 near your house is a perfect example of that.
Each store is only operated by like 2 graduate students that are getting paid minimum wage, so it can't really cost that much. I guess you gotta have a cleaning crew come.
You gotta pay rent.
Actually,
yeah.
no, they made us clean the stores too.
Oh, CFO James Bell said that 95% of its stores were still profitable, but he said that they were going to roll out a plan that will result in more closures in the coming year.
And I gotta stem that tide. CEO George Sherman tried to put his positive spin on things, saying, "We are committed to acting with a sense of urgency to address the areas of the business that are critical to achieving long-term success and value creation for all our stakeholders. We will set GameStop on the correct strategic path and fully leverage our unique position and brand in the video game industry."
Yeah, that's basically CEO speak for, we know things are bad and we're working as fast as we can to fix things, and they're getting hit with water while trying to put duct tape around the puncture wound.
Those really squishy potatoes I got in my garage, they're gonna come out and start getting thrown at those stockholder meetings.
Like, what do you mean they're worth less?
GameStop, hey.
Buy some GameStop today.
GameStop stock was punished even further by investors after this news, down more than 11% of this morning, which we previously thought was impossible. At some point, it will go inverted and they'll be paying you to accept stock, which you shouldn't do. It's bad for your portfolio.
Right, and we know what you're thinking. Hey, it's the year 2006 right now today. Things are better than ever. No, in fact, it's the year 2019, and there's a reason why all this is happening.
Is Half-Life 3 out yet?
We're still waiting.
Put me back to sleep.
So digital sales plus internet retailers like Amazon are taking a huge bite out of GameStop's business and have been doing it for years.
Yeah, and this hits GameStop where it hurts, right, Brian?
Yeah, especially used games. Those are massively important to GameStop's bottom line. It makes a huge percentage of every used game sold, but obviously in this brave new digital era that we live in, used games becoming less and less of a thing.
Games in general are going to become less and less of a thing. Google Stadia is out there trying to make sure you don't buy games ever again.
Yeah, the physicality, even the actual active downloading is being threatened right now. So who knows what things are going to look like 10 years from now.
Yeah, we're just renting ones and zeros now.
We're paying for the limited rights to access someone else's copywritten content. Read your EULAs, man. It's dystopian in there. I mean, there's a reason they're 30 pages long.
Free will is an illusion. So GameStop's revenue from used games has been dropping for years, every quarter, since 2015, in fact.
Yeah, it's not a rosy picture. Overall competition from the internet and digital stores have sapped 65% of GameStop's market value over the last 3 years.
Yep, and not surprisingly, there's been a steady stream of bad news for the retailer.
Yeah, but here's good news.
Oh, really?
Hey, all you fresh Gen Zers, you guys want to hang out at a cool place after school? You want to come in and play some Fortnites and maybe drink some energy drinks and do your Juul vapes and what? So yeah. This leads to what the CFO was implying is that there is actually a plan to try and turn the company around and use their brick and mortar locations for something useful, which is apparently yanking all those post-millennials out of their houses and spending money in a store. So they're in the middle of what they call a reboot plan right now, which seems to involve a lot of layoffs and store closures.
Closed hundreds of stores over the last several years and even tried to find a buyer for itself earlier this year, but no one really wants the one offering it all up.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, when you can smell the stink, it's just like, close your legs.
When it's closing time at the bar and you just throw yourself on the ground with your legs in the air and say, come and get it!
Yeah.
And everybody just walks out. Damn.
Also last month, GameStop laid off almost half of the staff of Game Informer magazine. Yeah, pouring out for those guys.
How much could that have cost? Really?
That was actually part of a larger round of layoffs that affected 120 corporate positions at the retailer. It must have just been a check mark next to a box and said, what's this GI thing? Well, salaries, headcount, gone, bye.
It's unfortunate because Game Informer really has been around forever. And to see it gutted like that was a sad sign for a lot of old school gamers. I'm gonna say the phrase, I'm gonna say it. You know, never forget. Gamer culture too. It's just one of those things. Game Informer's always been there. They've always been doing good work. Even if you're mad about a number they threw on a game a million years ago, still pissed about that 1,000-year door review. What were you thinking? Person whose name that I swear I'd never forget and finally have.
Anyway, even worse news for GameStop is that there's a new competition on the horizon and it's all digital.
Recently announced. What are we looking at here, Brian?
Apple Arcade, which gives you access to a selection of iOS games. They're kind of iPhone, iPad-y looking games for $5 a month. That's coming September 19th. They just rolled that out. And of course, Google's game streaming platform, Google Stadia, is coming a few months later in November. Both of those are digital, obviously, which means no used games to sell.
What could really help GameStop right now is having a bunch of new consoles to sell. Not because it earns them money, but because it gets foot traffic into those stores and then you get them on the pickle.
And you don't just buy a console, you gotta buy a console, a game, a charging pack. Hey, what are these thumbsticks that make me play better?
Yep, new controllers, digital download codes, all that stuff. Yeah,
so
people still like physical machines to play games, at least for now.
But Sony and Microsoft are not gonna roll out their next-gen consoles until next year, which means that GameStop still has a little while to wait.
It was actually kind of sad too, because when the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out, I just pre-ordered them on Amazon.
That was the first time I ever had just consoles delivered, Switch, everything.
And arrived the day of launch.
I haven't been in the store to buy a console for a while.
Yeah.
Not since the Xbox 360 when GameStop was relevant.
I'm nostalgic about launch day, about lining up and being there with everybody else for hours and stuff. Those are good memories, but God, I don't need them anymore. I don't need that.
Yeah, you don't have to put on pants anymore. It's great.
I still like wearing pants. It just depends on what kind of pants.
Human
Thoughts?
skin.
It's a thought starter.
I thought about I'll bring it up later.
Okay.
I wanted to make a full chest plate out of Nintendo DS's and see if you could hit it with a sword and if the person under it would feel it. Anyway, currently we're still at the end of the current generation, which means that most people have already picked up the console of their choice, and a lot of them are just sitting at home buying games digitally.
Absolutely. None of any of that makes GameStop any money.
For now, it seems like the strategy is to keep cutting costs until those numbers turn around.
And actually, newsflash here, GameStop amazingly does have money. It's estimated that the retailer still has about $480 million in the bank.
Yeah, as far as we can tell, a lot of that money came from the sale of the Spring Mobile division last year.
So what's the big picture here? Well, GameStop GameStop as a company now seems to be losing money. It had a net loss of $24.5 million for the quarter, which means that right now GameStop is not a profitable company.
Yeah, but it has been for a very long time, even when its fortunes were going south, right, Brian?
Yeah, just a year ago, it had a net income of $20 million for the same quarter. So in the course of a year, it went from a money-making business to a money-losing business. Again, at least as best we can determine. We didn't go to school for this stuff. We're trying our best.
It's interesting how much of this job actually revolves around being able to ingest financial reports and to digest that into what that actually means for the company.
Yeah, it's one of the few times we actually learn info about a company or a game developer.
Yeah, and those things fuel decisions. It's not somebody said something mean on Twitter, so of course they did this. That's really not it. It's all money. So in this case, what's really fascinating to me is that they did have a loss this year, but as we said at the beginning of the episode, that came from a readjustment of assets. So it's not like the money rolling into the company took a massive hit, even though it is on the decline. In terms of the money coming in and out, they're still profitable and they have money in the bank, which means they're not going to full on die anytime soon.
Not really.
But they are triaging right now. So that means closing stores, cutting jobs, and ideally finding some sort of business that makes more money or brings in more assets.
Exactly, and that's why we're seeing them try to sell things like toys and collectibles and getting into things like esports because they're new and shiny.
The larger macro trends are against them. People are going to keep buying more and more digital games, so GameStop has to change the core of its business to adjust for the times.
Yeah, and that's really, really hard to do for any traditional retailer. That's why we've seen so many of them close down.
So for now, GameStop can stay afloat for a little while longer. It's got some gas in the tank, but who knows how many more quarters it can endure like this?
They may be hanging out with the likes of Toys R Us and Game Crazy sooner than we thought. I just want a hip, cool GameStop executive to take a DX racer, turn it around, try to sit cool, but he realizes it's a race car chair and it's in his way, and he just has to lean over a little bit and he falls out, and then they make more money.
Heard you kids like Fortnite! Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by Drop, formerly MassDrop.com, and COS, sponsoring the GMR 54X ISO headset. This collaboration between Drop and the storied audio engineers at COS produced this wonderful headset. It's got 3D sound. And if you've been playing a game in 2D sound, you haven't been achieving your true gamer potential, which is what this show is about and what all of our sponsors are about. The GMR headset has an emphasis on locational sound or 3D audio. It gives you positional cues to create a soundscape that feels like 3D, which means when there are other scrub gamers with their stupid virgin 2D audio coming after you, you'll hear exactly where they are. So, trust no one, not even yourself. If there's someone behind you, you can just whip, bang. They didn't even know you were there, but you heard them. Working closely with the engineers at COS, Drop has made some improvements on this headset, taking input from the community of gamers, audiophiles, and other enthusiasts. Drop added a boom mic with a volume and mute switch to the GMR. That brings just the right level of sensitivity for gaming with controls that allow you to adjust your levels on the fly. Which, yes, diving into Windows to adjust a lot of sliders is annoying, so having it all physical on the headset itself is a huge, huge help. You can get this today for just $50 at dro.ps/insidegaming-COSGMR. That is a bit of a mouthful, so you can just check the link in the description for it. Again, that's the COS GMR headset for just $50. Thank you, Drop, for the sponsorship, and thank you for excelling on the gamer field. Sad Wednesday. We gotta stop doing sad stories on Wednesday, but I still gotta hump. Sorry, this one is with the utmost respect. I'm sorry. I don't want to do it, but I have to.
So one of the oldest video game magazines is in big trouble after its parent company made deep cuts to its staff this week.
Yeah, we're talking about Game Informer, which has been around since the early 90s, but it was reported that its parent company GameStop laid off nearly half